Hey everybody, it's Scott Martineau today. I'm founder of Infusionsoft and I'm totally excited to share with you today in our Thrive in 25 webinar how you can predict which of your leads are ready to buy, and we'll also give you a few ideas about what to do about it. And today we have as a special guest Brina Kaiser. Brina is an expert at helping small businesses implement these strategies we're talking about. Welcome, Brina. How are you today?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. Well, I think we all understand the opportunity here. If we could just know which of our leads are ready to buy, it would be so much easier. We've talked a lot about the fact that there are some leads who come in and they actually do buy right away. And in our whiteboard video, if you haven't watched it yet, you should, because we're not going to take all the time to review this. But the idea is, as you begin to build a list and you have leads that you're following up with, it would help you a ton if you could know which of these leads are hot. The reality is, inside this list, we have 5 leads right here that are hot and ready to buy today. The problem is, when I don't know who they are, I'm forced with basically dealing with this entire lead list and acting on it in the same way. For example, if I have a salesperson, you may or may not, but I would just give them this list and they could start at the top and start working their way down. Well, the problem then is they're wasting time calling through leads that aren't ready to buy, right? Well, what if I wanted to send offers to these leads? I don't want to send offers to the entire lead list, because all these people up here who aren't ready to buy are just going to start getting frustrated and have what we call offer fatigue, which means they're not going to want to stay on our list. And if I wanted to send a direct mail package, let's say I had a $5 direct mail package, I wouldn't want to send it to this entire list because it's basically wasted money, with the exception of these people who are hot and warmed up. So what if we could predict? That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to show you how you can use lead scoring. And again, if you haven't watched the other video, we introduced this concept in a greater detail, and we give you a little bit of homework. We're going to introduce the way for you to basically have these hot leads bubble up. So you have this list here that has just your hot leads on it, and you still have the rest of the leads that you can continue to nurture down here. You'll have your list, but we'll know which of those leads are hot, and we're going to give you ideas about how to take action on those leads. So here's kind of the general idea. We're going to build what we call a lead score. We're going to find criteria, buying behaviors that let us know that somebody is progressing down the path and getting closer to being ready to buy. And we're going to actually be calculating a score for each one of these leads. So if you imagine these leads are coming along kind of a nurture path. So we're starting here and we're sending them nurture type emails and maintaining a relationship with them. We're going to be accumulating a score. Each lead is going to be having a score. We might add 10 points to it when they take a certain behavior, another 10 points here, another 30 here. And when they hit a certain point, we're going to take them off of this nurture path that they're on, and we're going to actually start another approach, we're going to call these hot leads, and we're going to take a slightly different approach, which might mean that's where we would have our salesperson actually reach out to them. We might present an offer to those people, or we might send that $5 direct mail piece that was too expensive to send to the entire list. So that's what Brina is going to show us how to do today. We're going to use this concept of lead scoring, and pretty soon you will have the crystal ball to tell you which of these leads you should be going after that are hot. All right, so Brina, I'll pass over to you, and let's take a look at how we can set up lead scoring.
Yeah, let's dive in. Again, we're using Infusionsoft. It's the system that I'm most familiar with, so we're going to use this to kind of model out what we're talking about. So we jump in here. This is our dashboard. I'm already seeing some activity, but let's dive in and get a little bit more granular with it. So we are going to edit our lead score. So here we've already done some pre-work here. This is the first decision we had to make, which was how many points equals 5 flames. We've got a total of 5 flames that indicate how hot our leads are, and we've got a 50-point system. So we've already got a couple things set up here. So if the contact, that's anybody who's coming into my system, if they have submitted a web form, then let's say to me that's fairly valuable on my 50-point scale. So I'm going to give them 10 points. But that's only valuable to me if I first captured them as a lead with that web form submission. Then maybe that lead expires after, I'm sorry, those points expire after 2 weeks, because recency matters.
So in other words, this score is a dynamic score that will
Yes.
add when activity happens, but as they cool off, their score will drop. And
Absolutely, because it's all about timing. Nobody stays hot as a lead forever, so we want to make sure we're capturing that as well.
great.
Same thing with an email open. Let's say if they open any of my emails, that's also worth 10 points to me. And then let's say that expires, however, after, let's say, 1 week. because it's a little bit more, I'm sending
The less
emails on it.
committed behavior.
Exactly, exactly. And then, however, link click, to me, if they're clicking a link inside my email, that's certainly worth quite a few more points. So let's say that's 20 points, but that also expires after a single week because if they're not capitalizing on that right away, then they're going to cool off pretty quickly.
So these are pretty general behaviors. If you notice
Yes.
here, any email open gets clicked, any web forms. Now we're going to show you how you can actually use maybe some more specific activities. We've used the example in the past of, for example, downloading the chiropractor's guide, 3 common causes of back pain, this guide that
Yep.
we've created.
So let's use that example. In Infusionsoft, we would have applied tags. Think of them as like a post-it note on the contact's forehead, just something we've tracked about them. So if
That's kind
they're
of a disturbing thought a
tags,
little bit.
well, the more we know, the better for us. That's the important part. So if they downloaded the guide, then to me, like, what would you say? Maybe that's worth 30 points?
Yeah,
If they went ahead and downloaded that after I sent it to them, that's huge, right?
Yep.
And then let's say that has a 2-week expiration on it when we're trying to track them down with those automated sequences we looked at earlier. Then, so that's another thing that could add to their score. Let's scroll down here. We're getting a little bit more awesome here. So we've got more things to look at, and I'll just kind of add a couple more here.
So while you're doing that, if you notice, we're actually creating the available points is going to be in excess of our 50-point target. Our 50 point is basically, that's when we have somebody who's a hot lead and we're going to take this different path, and we'll show you in a minute how you would actually take a different path. So all right, so what have you got here?
So if they requested that free spinal evaluation by any method, I want them immediately to be at the top of my list. So they would get 50 points for that activity.
Great.
It would expire again after a couple weeks, let's say. But then let's say they're, now remember we had that long-term nurture where we wanted people to be able to bubble up intelligently, right?
Right.
And one way we were doing that was by giving those periodic offers. Another way we could be doing that, however, is tracking whether they clicked on certain links. And if certain links indicated a valuable engagement to me, then I want to add points. So in this example, if they clicked a link about our Cairo Kids post, then I know I've got them because they are a parent and they want to invest in their kids. So they're definitely a hot lead to me. I might bubble them up with 30 points.
So that's
That
a little
expires
more
after a couple
valuable
weeks.
than
Yeah.
just a general link being clicked
Exactly.
from
That
emails. Okay.
particular link has meaning to me because I know that it indicates how hot they are if they're interested in their kids' health. I want to capitalize on that as soon as I can. But then let's say I've got this one that they click the link that maybe we're giving them an option to find out more about what the spinal evaluation would be like before they actually requested it.
Got it.
Well, that, to me, honestly, what would you say, 20, 30 points? Let's say.
Yeah, I think
Let's
that's a
say
30
30. I
as well.
agree.
So what I love about this is you're if you kind of imagine what's happening from the perspective of your leads. Your leads, they're getting emails, they're clicking on it if they're interested, they're not clicking on it if they're not. And so this is basically this kind of magical system behind the scenes that is just keeping track of that. All right, they clicked on. So the fact is, if somebody sees your offer for a free spinal evaluation and they don't click on it, you don't necessarily know that much about them. If they do click on it, we know that they've got at least some level of interest because you don't just go around clicking on, stuff. And
Exactly. We like to think of it as like the virtual raising their hand, right? They're raising their hand and saying, "I'm interested." Just because I haven't taken the ultimate step you want me to take doesn't mean I'm not engaged, doesn't mean I'm not somewhat interested. So we're allowing them to raise their hand so they can get our attention when we
Yes.
want them to. One last example here. We talked way back in our first video about other ways leads come in. One of those is through like mobile networking, right?
Yes.
They're using like Snap app or something else like that. So I might, because if I'm networking with them and that's how they get into my system, they're not filling out a web form, so they're not going to get those points. But if I tag them as being a lead I got through an event, then maybe that gives them, let's say again, 10 points. That'll expire after a couple of weeks after an event. So once I put them in as a networking lead, they'll have a couple additional points. And then because I made that same offer to them in person, said, "Hey, let me send you my guide." They said, "Yes, great." I send it to them. Then this would add up with that score so that if they did this and it opened my email, they'd have 50 points and they'd be ready to be called right away.
What I love about this is you're mixing the things that happen online, kind of like while we're sleeping, right?
Yes.
The form gets filled out and the email gets clicked with the human interaction. So me or one of my employees might do something, in this case, the networking, and that's beautiful because you have one place where you're tracking it. A lot of times that information is we're aware of it, but we're not putting it into a place where it can actually be taken advantage of. So
Well, or we're not following up with it in an intelligent and strategic way, or we've got a different way of doing it. Here, we're coming back to that same process that we've talked about all along, which is ultimately drive. What's that next goal? In this case, it's the free spinal evaluation, and ultimately the goal is the sale. But we're still going through that strategic process because we know it's what works.
fantastic. So if I come in and I do the web form, if that my first activity is I fill out this web form, I'm gonna have a point value of 10. These basically just add on top of each other. They stack. If I then go do this,
Yep.
I'll be at 30. If 2 weeks go by and I do nothing else, then I'll be back at 0.
Yep, exactly.
Because that's going to expire and that's going to expire, and so we'll be back to 0.
Yep.
But if in a 2-week time I hit both of those, it'll hit 50, and we'll show you how we'll actually trigger some additional follow-up based on when people or when people reach those point levels. Great.
Exactly.
Anything else you want to cover on this?
No, that's the perfect point. As you noticed, it was that easy just to add additional things. Again, this required some thought process ahead of time. So really the magic sauce here is to sit down and really think about what drives value and what is meaningful engagement for your audience.
Can we do minus points, by the way?
Oh, you better believe it.
So like if I have an existing patient, for example,
Mm-hmm.
then I would want to basically say they get minus whatever, 100
Right.
points.
Exactly. So if I wanted their, whether it's activity or tags, I could say if they have a, let's say, an unsubscribe tag, if that was a tag that I had, then I could subtract
Got it.
points.
There you go. Sweet.
And I might do 50 points all at once because I don't want them showing up on any radar, right?
Beautiful. All right, well, let's save that, and then let's go. Oh, and so there's flexibility here. So in this case, 50 points is
Mm-hmm.
5 flames. You could have that be 500 and give out higher values,
Yep.
whatever. It's just kind of at your discretion. Okay.
Yep, it depends on really how gangster you want to get with how many different levels of stuff here. Which, we're gangster, but we're good. We're gangster with 50. We're cool.
Okay,
All right.
great.
Let's go take a look at how we would make this happen inside a campaign. So I'm going to go back into the campaign we've been working on here, our Thrive in 25 campaign, and let's kind of come up here and look at the campaign we built last time. So again, same process, right? But we want to make it work intelligently with our lead scoring. And really where that's going to come into play for us is in this long-term nurture, right? We want people to bubble up automatically based on what score they have. Make sense? Good?
Yeah, so if you didn't watch the last video, you have this is essentially where the list is being built. I think
Yes.
I won't go into the detail. We only have our 25 minutes, and plus we're going to beat our 25 minutes in this video.
It's the or less.
But these are people that haven't taken advantage of the offer initially. They're not the low-hanging fruit. They're in our long-term nurture, and we're trying to figure out which of those are the hottest.
Yep, absolutely. Just maybe it took them a little bit longer to get there, right? They didn't heat up quite so fast. So I have this goal. Now, you'll remember that previously we talked about our goals. The first goal was to capture them as a lead. The next goal is to get them to request that free spinal evaluation. Obviously, the ultimate goal is to sign them up as a new patient. But our intermediate goal here from the long-term nurture is to have them bubble up to be 5 flames. So when I look at this goal here, it's saying, okay, great. What score is going to trigger this goal?
So okay, what? So this goal on the canvas here is saying certain criteria have to be met for this goal to be accomplished.
Yep.
And the score has to increase to at least 5 flames, and we could change that any number
Yep.
of flames. But we're just saying, in fact, you could have varying levels.
Yep, we can make it as complex or as simple as we want. So as you start to grasp onto this concept, you can see how it could become really complex if we want it to be. For right now, for illustrating the purposes, let's keep it pretty simple.
I think for some people this is already complex enough. So.
I would agree with you, yes.
But the great thing is that once this gets set up, you have this machine in the background that's just watching all your leads and telling you which ones are
Exactly.
hot.
100%. So what happens? As soon as they reach that 5 flames, well, I want them to get the hot lead offer. Now, this is just a sequence, just things happening like we looked at before. So let's double click on this and take a look at what's happening as soon as they reach those 5
And before you
flames.
double click, so what we're trying to make happen here is, again, our goal is to basically get people to, we're not necessarily going for the kill yet for the new patient. We're actually still trying to get people to request this free spinal
Yes.
evaluation, which is an important, a lot of times people get confused and we always want to go for the sale, but that's our goal. We're just saying that we're nurturing and nurturing, and rather than pounding those people over the head more, let's get the others to bubble up so that we can get them moving down the path. All right, cool.
Yep,
So
100%. We're still following the same process strategically because we know it works and it converts those leads.
So let's look at the things we might do once we know somebody has bubbled up as a hot lead.
Sure. So let's go inside here and take a look. All right, so they're a hot lead, right? We're going to send them a message as soon as they hit that 5 flame score. It's going to say, great, we acknowledge the activity. We've noticed you've been looking around our website, you've been checking out our blog posts, whatever it is, and then we're going to make the sweet offer, right? So whatever it is, it's going to really reel them in. We're going to give you a free hour-long massage if you schedule your free spinal consult today. And by the way, we're going to be giving you a call about that in a moment, so answer the phone when you hear us call. So
Beautiful.
then immediately thereafter, this is also happening automatically, we're going to schedule a task for our scheduler to give them a call, right? Our receptionist, whoever it is that makes those calls, they're going to receive a task right away as soon as that person hits 5 flames to make that call, right?
So if that happened overnight, if you had 3 or 4 leads bubble up overnight, then the employee would come in the next day, they'd have their task list,
Yep.
and they're just basically working through the tasks of those, each of those things. And let's pull that open and look at some
Yeah.
of the ways you can give instructions to your
This is huge.
team members.
So especially when we cycle through employees sometimes or we put in new processes, if we can give instruction right there at the moment, it really minimizes a lot of extra
So this is
stuff.
the setup side of it, but each of the user, whoever you would assign these tasks to when they log in, they would see an actual task, but this is what would be set as the task instructions.
Exactly. So they'd see the title. They need to call to schedule a free spinal eval. It's very simple. Then the instructions give a little more detail. Now you're seeing this right here, contact first name, contact last name. That's called a merge field. That's where we're taking the information for this specific lead and popping it right there into the task. That way when Robin comes in the morning and looks at her list of tasks, she's going to see the actual client's name, patient's name right here in the list. It becomes much more personal and it cues her to use their actual name.
Great, and even phone number right there
Yep,
too.
that too. So it's all there right at her fingertips. She doesn't need to go back and look up the lead. It's all right there.
And you can have different people. This is where you select which
Yep.
of the employees you want to have do it, and beautiful.
Yep,
Okay,
and
great.
it's pretty slick.
So you have both. So this email even could come from Robin.
I would, in fact, encourage you to do so.
So Robin sends an email, hey, so-and-so, I noticed that I'll give you a call later today, but if you're interested in coming in for the spinal evaluation and the free massage, let me know. Then she shows up on the phone later, and by the way, if somebody calls back or emails, it saves her from having to do the outreach.
Exactly.
And it kind of changes things. Great.
Yep.
So then we continue on the sequence, and this is just an illustration. There are lots of things we can do. Some of you don't actually have employees that you would have do outbound calls. That's fine. In this case, you might do an email offer. Here's another example of sending a direct mail piece. Remember, we don't necessarily want to send direct mail pieces. Postcards aren't that expensive, but we might want to preserve the funds that we would spend on sending postcards to the entire list, and maybe send something with more frequency or a little bit higher quality to the lower list of hot
Yeah.
leads, the smaller list of hot leads.
Exactly. Well, and we can make it as simple or as complex as we want to. There's lots of amazing things we could do at this point, but the important thing is we've called out who the hot leads are so we can speak to them differently and be more strategic about it.
Beautiful.
So let's head back up to the campaign level because I do want to illustrate, Scott, what you mentioned a moment ago, which is that ultimately the whole goal of this offer is not, to your point, to drive them to the point of sale yet. We want to keep them along the same process. So really, we're bubbling them up to come right here. We still
Great.
want them to request that free spinal evaluation. So
Love it.
that
I
all
love
comes here.
the fact that we're able to reuse a lot of what we've created here,
Yes.
so we're not having to rethink everything every single time. You create a system that works, and you just
Yep.
plug stuff in.
Well, ultimately, when we reverse engineered our process from the point of sale all the way back to see what those intermediate goals were, those goals hold true. There's still goals we want to accomplish no matter how we got the lead and no matter how long it took the lead to be ready for our free spinal evaluation in this case. Doesn't matter how long it took them. We can still get them to the same point because it's what we know works.
Beautiful. Okay,
Cool.
so let's just go back here. So we now have a way for you while you're sleeping to find these people, right? We have identified all the behaviors that are going to bubble these people up into your hot list. And you're going to have specific approaches that you can take now with these people on the hot list, which means you have your crystal ball, and you can take the leads that were currently just kind of sitting there and kind of dormant in your lead list, and you can turn them into customers. This is how we even out the flow of customers. We have a busy month, we have a not so busy time. We're always there, and when people are ready to buy, they bubble up and we take action. So, all right, everybody. Well, thank you for your time and focus today. I think we beat our 25 minutes, and hope you enjoyed this Thrive in 25 session. Thanks. Thanks, Brina.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.